Yeah, welcome back to another session. This is the Phone Takak Junction where we get it rolling. Yeah, and I've got my guy on set as usual. LA, what's popping? What's going
What's
on?
happening, people? Welcome to the Frontier Junction podcast. Let's get rolling.
Yeah, that's how we roll. And on this particular episode, we have our first ever calling guests all the way from the Midland, UK. Yemi Ladejobi, aka the Nigerian Man's Perspective.
Welcome.
Grateful to be here, guys.
Yeah, what's going on, bro? How you doing now? What's happening there?
Not bad at all.
How's the weather treating you?
It's fine. It's a bit better now. It's not as cold as, a few months ago, so it's not too bad. Yeah, we thank God.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, Yemi is a business analyst and he's a mentor. He's a man that wears many hats. So that's, as they say, in the mainstream lingo, the man that wears many hats. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, interesting to have you, Yemi. So we're just going to dive into it. There's been a lot that is happening in the the political space, especially when our man, no, I don't know if it is your man, but I call him my man, but I don't even know if it's my man any longer because all the policy where the guy just they throw these days, I don't even know where the thing they go.
Oh, got you.
Yeah. Donald Trump. Yeah, he's the one that is disrupting everywhere now and all. And we know about his tariff, in across the globe and all. But guys, what do you guys think? What do you think about this Trump tariff? I know it's land China 120, 124 or 140 or
145%.
145%. China went 122%, 123%. I don't even know where they think they go. He's done slam us too. I don't even know what thing they send, where they slam us. Said make you leave us alone. Make we, I don't even understand. Yeah. So, but I mean, that's the situation. But what do you guys think about the tariff, the Trump tariff? We'll let the Yemi go and then we'll come back to LA.
So thank you very much. So first and foremost, I'm very honored to be on the show. I believe that we're going to have an exciting time just discussing the economy, the tariffs, etc. So I'm really, really honored to be here. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And you see, I call him Daddy Trump. So Daddy Trump has just been doing a lot of things. And he's having impacts everywhere he goes with his statements. He first did it in 2016. Now he's back in 2025. So when we talk about tariffs, right, I always think back to how countries played this game of economic chess for centuries. So tariffs are like walls. Sometimes you build walls to protect. But sometimes when you build a wall to protect, you end up isolating the people on the other side of that wall. So let me take the viewers back a little bit. So imagine you have two shop owners on the streets, say in Lagos, for example, in Alaba, for example. So one is selling electronics, the other one is selling fabrics. Now the electronics guy says, "You're selling too much on my side of the street. You are taking customers. I'm going to put a toll gate in front of your store." And that is exactly what Trump did with his America First policy. He raised tariffs not just on China, but on many trading partners. What was the goal behind that? So he said, to protect U.S. industries, which is in line with the mantra of America First. But the reality is that global trade doesn't like walls as such because it can impact economic policies, plans, taxes, the global supply chain, and they say when two elephants fight, the grass tends to suffer. Now, like you rightly mentioned, the USA imposed a 145% tariff on China. Why we're really talking about the USA-China trade-off is because these are the biggest giants economically currently, and they're also the biggest players that have slammed the highest tariffs on themselves. It's not that there are not other countries that are not there. So while the USA slammed the 145% on China, China didn't take a line down. China didn't take a line down. So they struck back, and they've now done their own 125% retaliatory tariff on US goods, which is like a full-on economic slap to the US. So I'll just pause for the LA. Please take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Yemi. I mean, for me, I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out what exactly the end game is, right? I mean, Trump came in and he didn't even wait for his feet to get cold in the White House. He started throwing tariffs everywhere. And you can tell that a lot of the things that he's doing right now, it's almost like a child throwing tantrums, because 1 minute he's threatening Mexico, Canada, and China with like 40% tariffs. Then he's going to wake up one morning and say, you know what? Yeah, let's hold on to that for another 90 days and see how things goes. Right? Now we're hearing that all the tariffs that is slammed on like 64 countries, they've put a pause on them for another 90 days. And but there's some baseline 10% that some countries are already on. So my question is, what's the yin yang for? Right? Why are you waking up one morning threatening tariffs, then you're saying, okay, let's hold on for 30 days. Then next morning you're increasing the tariffs, then you're saying let's hold on for 90 days. It's giving manipulation, right? And obviously China is the one that's got it worse, because they're the only country right now with over 100% tariff against the USA. The rest are doing 10%. So for me, I'm trying to look beyond the surface and trying to figure out what's the end game. If Trump says he's trying to promote or support America First policies and strengthen American manufacturers, he's not doing that, because these manufacturers rely on imports of critical raw materials. Look at the auto industries. They rely on a lot of critical car parts, right, coming in from China, from Asia. And then with tariffs of 10%, 20%, those materials are going to become more expensive, which only means that the Teslas and the GMCs and all these guys will have to also increase the price of their cars. Increase the price of the cars, you're going to affect demand because the people can't buy it, right? And now, don't forget, in Korea, what Korea is doing now is, with the tariffs coming in, they have increased subsidies on the auto sector in Korea. So the government have increased the amount of financial support they are giving car makers in Korea so that they can maintain prices and stay competitive. So if the Koreans or the Japanese are able to circumnavigate this tariff war, in quotes, and stay competitive, their cars could still end up being cheaper than the American cars. So who's losing out at the end of the day? So for me, I feel like the old America First mantra is a smokescreen. Maybe there's something else going on that Donald Trump and his friends have in store, and they're using this tariff thing as the mechanism to achieve it. Some people have said it could be stock manipulation, right? Also trying to mess around with the global oil prices, right? And then maybe this instability somehow favors some people. We all know when there's an economic crash, when 80% of the world is crying and saying I've lost it all, there's a 20% somewhere that's mopping up all that money and achieving generational wealth. So this instability for me is so random that I think it's orchestrated. And so the question is, how do we drill down to the bottom to find out, what the end game is?
Yeah, so for me, Yemi, I'll let you come. Let me just chip in. I believe that there is something about world world economies, the world powers, and trying to flex their muscle. I know that during COVID, there was there were a lot of supplies that was coming from China, actually, to the rest of the world, to the point where even mask, US had to start getting mask from the US. I mean, US had to start getting mask from China, And don't forget that Trump was in government at the time, And that kind of rubbed Trump the wrong way, really. Some drugs actually, too, had to come from China, And this is the thing with global politics and global economies and stuff and all, But, because our time is fast running, we just have 30 minutes. I don't want us to kind of go. So I'll just go to the next question, and then we can now answer that, together with, our supporting comments and all. Now, China giving the US a reciprocal, tariff, 120 something and all. How does that shake out, for the rest of the world? Because we know that the rest of the world gets supplies from China, gets supplies from the US. I know it affected Nigeria. I don't know. I can't really say about Nigeria, but that's just where we find ourselves now. How does that shake out? And where does that put the rest of the world as it pertains to their own economy and their own well-being as well? What do you think about that, Yemi?
So what's the question again? How does the rest of the world...
Yeah, China slamming the US back with 120 something percent. How does that shake out? Because all these things are kind of, it has a ripple effect, for the rest of, the world. I know when you sent me a link, maybe a link or a post where American government said that, okay, they are not going to put tariff on chips. They are not going to put tariff on, they are not going to put tariff on this and all, because by the time the computers are manufactured, it only means that the tariff will make the product get more expensive, and that will affect the rest of the people that wants to get access to computers and all. So how do we determine the extent of, this money squeeze on the rest of the world? How do we get to that point?
So thank you very much. I think it's a great question. You see, the US US-China tariff battle is way bigger than just two countries, and it's a great question. So it's like when you have, the two biggest footballers fighting on a team, like one captain is fighting the other, the whole squad. You see what happens when you watch a football match. Nobody just allows both of them to fight. You see everybody getting in, the referee, everybody's pushing, they're pulling people, red card feel happen, so we will all feel it. You understand me?
Yeah.
There's no way China and US will be in a trade battle and then the rest of the world will not get caught in a crossfire when China has hit the US with tariffs like this. So to try and answer your question very quickly, and I'll put our dear country Nigeria in the mix. So looking at countries like Nigeria, Mexico, Germany, even Vietnam, we're all part of the global production line, right? Because you can make parts, say in Nigeria, for example, you can assemble those same parts in, say, China, but the final destination is the US. So we're all interconnected. We all have to do trade together. Now, chain is broken or expensive because you've had calculations, you've had valuations, you've done your ROI in the next 5 years. All of a sudden, this thing comes and it throws all your predictions and your calculations into chaos. So small and medium countries, they will lose business if Chinese factories slow down. And they are going to slow down until they figure out what's going to happen in 90 days, like Emmy said. Now, multinational countries are going to have to rethink their production hubs. To what I was saying earlier, which can be good or bad depending on where you are. Then you talked about, commodity prices, markets, talked about market manipulation. Yes, when China and the US they go at it like this, global demand is going to drop, especially from China, who is the world's largest buyer of many raw materials. That can now have a knock-on impact on countries that export oil and gas, metals, agriculture. That's where Nigeria comes into the conversation with oil. Brazil export a lot of soybeans. Australia do a lot of iron ore. So if China is buying less from the US, it may look elsewhere. So some exporters will win, others will lose. I'll stop there for now.
Interesting. Ole, what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised at how calm everyone is. We're looking at the face of, we're staring at the face of global anarchy, right? Chaos, inflationary pressures all over the place. And I'll give you a simple example, one that hits home, right? For millennials and Gen Zs who like their iPhones, right? You don't know what's going on until your iPhone begins to cost $2,000, right? Before it was 1,312. Because what's happening? The guys that manufacture your iPhone, the minerals and the rare earth metals that they buy from China, if they do slam 100% tariff on it, it means that Apple is going to spend twice as much to buy those chips or those titaniums or those whatever. And guess who's paying for that? It's you. They're going to add the cost to the price of the phone.
Yeah.
So if you were spending $2 million to buy an iPhone, you're going to start spending $4 million. Right, and that's just bringing it to layman's understanding. Right, it spreads across all the things. These tariffs are being slammed on steel. They are being slammed on agricultural products. They are being slammed on different kinds of things, furniture. So for a country like Nigeria, that's importing a lot of things from Europe, from China, from America, it just means anarchy for us. If we complain about Tinubu and what his policies are doing to us in terms of cost of living, you have no idea what Donald Trump is about to do to you. Some people think it's just a US problem or it's just a China problem. But like Yemi said, it has implications for the world as a whole. It's not just US and China. The squabbles that they have will have a global impact. And we are seeing that with oil prices as well, right? The instability that is having oil prices is trading at $60 thereabout, lot of uncertainties around there. That alone has its own impact on Nigeria with oil prices at $60. Don't forget, the Nigeria's 2025 budget was pegged at oil prices of $75. So right now, we are at $15 below the benchmark. That indicates a deficit in terms of the revenues that the country was expecting, right? So, and that will have a knock-on effect in terms of government spending and also, fiscal policies that the government can push to alleviate a lot of the challenges that the country is facing right now. So I know that right now people don't see or can't feel the impact. It sounds like news right now. But if in 90 days, all of these tariffs, 70% on Nigeria, 24% on this, 63% on South Africa, if all of these things actually pass, yeah, it's not going to be funny, I'm telling you. So I think the stakeholders need to come to the table and ask Daddy Trump what does he want and give it to him so that we can all rest.
Yeah, truth of the matter is that I think quite a number of countries have started to come to the table and renegotiate with Trump. I'll just look at it from the layman's perspective because we can go professional and speak, big English and, it goes, I'm looking at the bottom line now. The bottom line is that when the effect of all these things start to take its toll, people are going to start having, maybe with Tinubu, we are going to go 100 days challenge. She been a 30 days challenge and see the talk. And 100 days challenge we go. Because the man is even in, let me not talk about Tinubu. But what I'm just trying to say in a nutshell is that I think for us as independent nations, and that would bring me to my next questions. I'm just going to tie it together, then we can just go on it. Nigeria also reciprocated because with the car tariff, Nigeria gave Nigeria, I think, 14%, because Nigeria's Nigeria, accepting US cars, Nigeria puts 100% on that. Let me even ask, before we even go to the resultant effect, how does Nigeria put 100% tax on US cars, knowing that it's coming into Nigeria for Nigerians to buy? I don't know how that works. Maybe my math in my head is not mathing very well, because I don't even care anything about when it comes to the calculating finances. I don't care. I don't even want to. That's not my space. I don't want to bother myself about it. But I'm saying, like, layman's, I'm just looking at it from layman's, eyes. If US cars are coming into Nigeria and Nigeria is putting 100% tariff on it, that would mean that the cost of everything will fall on the person that is buying the cars, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, how does that serve Nigerians?
I think it was interesting, and one of the things that this whole saga is doing is helping the public to get a little insight on some of the trade policies and practices that's been in place so far. I think now that you're talking about it, it's a no-brainer why we don't really see American cars in Nigeria, right? Because when you slam your 100% tariff on American cars, it's definitely not going to be price competitive. Nobody's going to be able to afford it in Nigeria, right? And some people who have said, or one of the defenses for tariffs has always been that it's a protectionist tool that governments use to protect local manufacturers, right? But it doesn't make any sense, because I know that for other cars that come from maybe Germany or Europe or Asia, is about 40%, right? Duty, we call it duty, that you pay on it, right? So for American cars, 100%, that's wild. And you probably need to ask questions. Why is that so? Because that's not fair. You do that, you're pricing American manufacturers completely out of the market. And, maybe they have not seen Nigeria as the market that they want to come to anyways. And that's why they haven't really pushed back on it. And maybe Trump is now saying, maybe we should push back on it, because that's not fair, right? You slam me 100% tariff. You've essentially made me unable to enter that market, right? And on that case, on that basis, you can say maybe there's a need to revisit that and negotiate for something that's a bit more fair.
Interesting. Yemi, what do you think about that?
No, yeah, of course, I agree with what you said. If the totality is amounting close to that, then it's not a good thing for the final consumer in terms of buying the products, because what they just tend to do is to shift it to the final consumer. As you know, there has been a drive towards even Korea, because one time it was you either bought a Japanese car or you bought a German car. Well, German cars were very expensive. You had French cars, the Polo. You also had like the Japanese cars like the Toyota Corolla. But you guys, you keep me honest, Toyota Corolla, is it cheap? Is it cheap? Even the Tokumbo is expensive. So hence, Kia and Hyundai come into the mix to help. So with this kind of higher tariffs on American products, American cars, like you guys said, it's going to be difficult for people to buy it. Only people that are high net worth individuals, HNIs, that'll probably be able to play in that space. Maybe they have a preference for these luxury cars, or maybe certain agricultural trucks or some kinds of products that other countries don't usually play in that space. Maybe those particular products will still come in, but from a car perspective, it's definitely going to reduce demand from the average Nigerian. No question about it.
Yeah, let's wrap it all up. I was going to go to Africa, but I don't really know how that's kind of affect the bottom line of Nigeria, really, because if Nigeria can get it right, then I think the rest of Africa can follow, suit. But because we are not, I don't know. I mean, each time I hear Giant of Africa, I go just laugh. Giant, my dirty behind, But the thing with it is, what do you think is the bottom line for Nigeria, really, as a sovereign nation? Because I know, 99.9% of nations in Africa, we're not sovereign, really. We're heavily dependent on foreign, imports. We're heavily dependent on foreign security, even security itself, when it comes down to it. You can see the way they just come and topple our governments, and all. There was a time where, Nigeria was talking about going nuclear. Do you know that there was a time like that Nigeria was talking about going nuclear? But where are we now? Like, we're not even close to anything, like, but what's the bottom line? What do you think is the bottom line for Nigeria? As a sovereign nation, knowing and seeing what this tariff is doing to the rest of the world. America cannot just sit in their comfort zone, and just decide, oh, okay, this is the way the world economy is going to go now, And rightfully so too, maybe because they feel like they have an edge, But what are sovereign nation, what are they supposed to be doing? I'm now looking at it and streamlining it to Nigeria. What are we supposed to be doing? If you were supposed to lead Nigeria now, what are you thinking about? How are you thinking? What are the policies that you're going to put in place to secure our own sovereignty in such a way that some of all these tariffs will not affect us so negatively? We don't even have our own manufacturing cars. If they say Innocent is not manufacturing anything. All the parts are coming in, and then we're just coupling, we're fixing everything here. Bottom line, but for any nation to survive, they have to have their own steel capacity. They have to have their own energy capacity, and they have to have their own technology infrastructure very well in place. If we want to send a satellite now, we have to go and meet China to help us send it. You can imagine. Yeah. So, and China will now put one or two of them inside the plane or inside the rocket to go up and go install it for us, or better still, to send it for us. We can't do anything our own independent. So, what are we looking at as a sovereign nation? How do you think we should need to start thinking going forward to wrap it all up? So, I'm going to give it to Yemi, and then we'll go back to Ellie. Then we'll just call it a day.
Thank you very much for that question. So Nigeria must adopt strategic measures. It's all about strategy at this level to sort of like mitigate the economic impact of the global tariff war. So we've been talking about this for decades. Reducing reliance on oil exports. We've been talking about it. Diversification. Encouraging domestic manufacturing to fill the gaps created by these UF tariffs. Focusing on sectors like tech space, agriculture, automobile production, or at least assembly. But that's linked to having an environment that is competitive and easy to do business in. There's a body called the African Continental Free Trade Area, FTA, that offers Nigeria an opportunity to strengthen trade relationships with other African countries, which creates new markets, access for Nigerian products. Then Nigeria also needs to negotiate better trade deals with global players like China, India, and the EU to reduce dependence on US exports. The government can also give incentives to local businesses, tax incentives, some kind of grants, subsidies, training programs, investing in technology, investing in education as well, to increase productivity and innovation. Also, investing in infrastructure, talking about roads, we're talking about bridges, we're talking about rail systems, and all these other things. Power. You can't get away from the power conversation.
Energy, yeah.
It will reduce costs for local manufacturers and facilitate that global competitiveness. But to the question that you mentioned around sovereign nations, yeah, just like I said, you have to ensure that once you have built these trade partnerships with a range of countries, what it means is that when one country now gets into a fight with you, how did Russia continue to have one of the strongest economies in Europe, even though they had been bashed with so many sanctions because of what's happening with the Ukraine war? It's because they can go to other countries and they have been doing business with other countries as well. So Nigeria has to have that, intra relationship with many countries so that we're not reliant on just the US or just the China. So yeah, that's my own answer to the question.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. Ellie,
Yeah, I mean, very, very quickly, you've spot on everything you've said, Yemi, to be honest. Nigeria, speaking about Nigeria, we are a import dependent country, especially for finished products. And we don't manufacture anything. So if this whole tariff thing, materializes, we will feel the brunt for sure, right? I believe for the first few months or years, um, hyperinflationary pressure straight up. However, if we're going to try to mitigate this kind of thing, then we need to be able to, like Emi has said, boost local production, right? We need to find a way to incentivize our ability to domestically manufacture and produce essential goods. And how do you do that? Because it's a double-edged sword. If we're going to ask people to mobilize to the industries and start manufacturing things, they're going to need raw materials. Mind you, these raw materials are going to become more expensive now because there's a global tariff war going on. So which means that there's a possibility that even domestic production might not cut it, because if the final production or cost of production ends up being higher than what you will get from importing the product, that negates the purpose. So that now also necessitates the need for the government to think about very serious and strategic fiscal incentives like subsidies, right, to subsidize local manufacturing. Right? That's the only way we can mitigate against this kind of global, pandemic, economic pandemic, really. And I don't know if Tinubu's government, the guy's coming, he's removed all the subsidies everywhere. So I don't even see him being the kind of person to want to use subsidies to support anybody right now. So I think Nigeria is caught between the rock and a hard place, and it's going to take some very, very ingenious and brilliant thinking and political will to try to cushion the impact of these global tariffs, on Nigerians, to be honest.
yeah. So whenever Nigerians, whenever we talk about our government, that statement kind of, yeah, I don't know, rubbed me off the wrong way because we don't have a government. I'm not saying that because I want to be pessimist or difficult or what have you. No, we don't have a government. We've never really had a government for a long time and all. And that's going to tell everyone that is watching this podcast, you are your own government. You know, however you want or whatever you think of Nigeria, start doing that now. You know, if it is type of conversation, start having it. Start encouraging conversation that fosters, change, first in our mind and then, in the way we do things and all, you know, until we get to the place where we begin to see Nigeria as our own uh, private property. You'll be depending on somebody like maybe the people that are in government now. They are fighting themselves. They keep fighting themselves. Natasha didn't look at me very well, so we have to change seats to go another seat. Stuff that are very, you can imagine these are the things that were, the public discourse has been like dragging for close to 3 months now.
Which
And all, and the country is actually, what's it called, hemorrhaging and going bad and going bad. And I don't know, really. I don't want to get myself down because whenever we're talking about Nigeria, just kind of dampens your mood, dampens your, I'm hoping that one day, someday, sometime, we can come to, and that's the reason why you see maybe like somebody like Paroti, whenever he's talking, you think like, why is he always, angry? But when you see somebody that carries Nigeria in their heart, That is the way they feel. Because it is sad that you know that this country, you have an idea of the potential of this country. Nigeria is supposed to be feeding Africa when it comes to, you know, talk about anything that we talk about, when it comes to governance and all. Nigeria is supposed to be feeding Africa practically everything, because we were doing that before. Nigeria was the one that was bailing out countries, bailing out, South Africa, bailing out, even the IMF. So there was a time they said Nigeria was borrowing IMF some money, you know. But this is where we find ourselves now, you know. And when somebody that's talking about Nigeria, the person is speaking like a madman, because the thing is so, you feel so agitated, like, what is going on? Why is the country just, and that's the reason why it reflected on that girl, that copper girl that was talking about Nigeria getting bad and stuff and all. It reflected on her. You saw how she was crying, because she had her female emotions to it. You will see that this is actually the way the typical Nigerian feels. It is very hurtful that you have a nation like this and you can't really say you can call Nigeria your home. Wow. We have all our families scattered everywhere. May have countless families scattered everywhere all over the world, just trying to make life bearable for themselves. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that Nigeria as a country, this is what we are doing to ourselves. And I don't even call them our leaders. They are not my leaders. They are not leading me. Because if they are leading me, I will be listening to them. They are not leading me. It is what
Yeah,
it is.
the lamentation of Rish. Chapter 4, verse,
I understand.
18 to 24.
Understand.
That is what it is, really. I'm sorry, you get me like I'm lamenting. Lamentation.
No. I totally understand.
It's actually interesting.
As well,
But
yes, I totally
it is
understand.
what it is. I don't join Farron TV today.
Thank
You
you. Yeah.
Thank you, Yemi, aka Nigerian Man Perspective. Guys, check Yemi out on Nigerian Man Perspective. He's a
YouTube.
lot on YouTube. We've given a lot of perspective. We've given a lot of, information.
Let me give us a little breakdown. What's your YouTube channel about?
Exactly.
What should I
Tell us
focus
that.
on so that the
Yeah.
listeners can tag along?
So yeah, thank you very much, both of you. I really appreciated our conversation today. So it's a channel that discusses African content mainly. So I react to news, sometimes entertainment, a little bit of politics. I do mini documentaries as well. I have some stuff there on Nigeria, some stuff there on specific states in Nigeria, just about their GDP, things they do, places people can visit, and really it's just Nigerian content that I do. I do some African content as well, but culture, entertainment, politics, and documentaries.
Yeah,
So that's what the channel is about.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
also do interviews as well. So I've interviewed a few people on my platform as well. So constantly evolving. So
I
check me out.
particularly like the documentaries you do, the animations. I think they're quite educating and
Thank you.
insightful as well. So,
Guys,
guys, for listening, subscribe to a Niger
yeah,
Mind
subscribe.
Perspective YouTube. Are you on socials? What's your socials?
Yes, so I'm on TikTok as ANMP, so which is just a abbreviation of a Nigerian man's perspective. So I'm on TikTok as ANMP, and then a Nigerian man's perspective as well on Instagram. So those are my three socials, yeah,
Socials.
that I'm on.
Yes,
All right.
guys, you have it. The Nigerian's Perspective, the premiere episode of our calling session. It's good to have you, buddy. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you guys. I really
Pleasure.
appreciate
yeah,
that.
it's been a pleasure having
You
you
guys,
on.
you guys are doing awesome work, guys. Please subscribe to this channel. They do great work,
Subscribe,
and they're
guys.
continuously churning out the content. I'm a fan and I follow this channel. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment.
Yeah,
Namaste.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you guys again next time. We'll get on your screen with the Contact Junction, and that's how we go.
Good evening, guys.
All right.